Welcome! This is the Alfie Brown Show, with me, Alfie Brown. That's why it's called the Alfie Brown Show. This week I talk about Putin invading Russia. I talk about being on tour and how I think the 18 months old is the best age for a human being. And then I talk about TikTok. And I've also got new shelves. I touched on that briefly. I'm on tour at the moment. On the day of release, I will be performing in Manchester in the evening. So if you catch this podcast on the day of release, why don't you come to Manchester? The next night, Liverpool. The next night, Birmingham. The next night, Bath. Then there's the week afterwards, Brighton. And then there's at some point there's going to be Leeds and Hull and Belfast and Dublin. Then I'm going to Australia. If you're listening in Australia, let me know, because I'd love to know that you're listening in Australia. That would be really exciting for me. And at the same time, I will be coming to Australia in the springtime. But until that time, all that remains for me to do is to ask you to like the video if you like the video, dislike the video, or leave a horrible comment if you don't like the video. If you're on a listening thing, then why don't you just leave a lovely review, for God's sake. Either way, I hope you're having a very pleasant life. Share the podcast, sing about the podcast, tell everybody that you love about the podcast, because the podcast is the podcast. And if it wasn't a podcast, it wouldn't be a podcast. It's the Alfie Brown Show. This is it. Dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It seems we're about to embark upon something of a world war. Hello, listener, and welcome to the Alfie Brown Show. Now, as you can imagine, like most thinking people, I'm not overly keen on the idea of a world war. I find that war is one of those words that's made significantly worse by the preceding word world. World war. Was it a civil war? Civil war, of course, has sort of it's civil war feels like a contradiction in terms. No war is civil, but it also is, it has a different meaning as well, doesn't it? Come on, I'm being difficult for the sake of being fucking difficult, and we're only a minute or so in. Idiot. Putin has gone to the Ukraine. I don't think he's gone to the Ukraine, but he's sent a tank or two. And he loves the idea of the Ukraine being a part of Russia. Not actually the way that he'd probably phrase it himself, I imagine. I think what he'd say is that the Ukraine is part of Russia. Vladimir, his name, he's named after, or at least feels like he has some sort of personal association to Prince Vladimir of the Ukraine. So he very much feels like the Ukraine is an extension of Russia. And indeed, his police have been arresting people for acknowledging that the Ukraine sort of exists, or that they are Ukrainian, or engaging with the idea in these sort of mostly Russian separatist areas on the outskirts of the Ukraine. I think people have been being arrested for just loving being Ukrainian. And listen, I don't know what you would love about being Ukrainian. I don't know what you'd love about being Russian. I don't know what you'd love about being English. I've never engaged with the idea. I think the closest I've ever got to national pride is feeling Welsh national pride. And whenever I see Welsh football fans get involved in like a support of their team, I think that is the best that national pride gets. It's the only sense of national pride that I've ever thought, I'd like to do that, instead of making me feel sort of like repelled and on edge and sad, and like I'm witnessing a sort of brainwashing take place. I've just never understood it. uh, because I don't know what there is to attach. Like all the generalizations that occur, or all the characteristics that bind the kind of sense of national unity. I've never been able to trace them among across a people. I suppose there are traits that sort of certain nations might possess that others don't. But then, like certainly in this country, there's certainly I'm not. What do I have that's similar to the Cornish? I'm not Cornish. Don't you fucking call me Cornish. Um, or from Humber, or ja Brumei. Ah, couldn't be Brumei. Yeah, so fucking like I could never be Brumei because you know, if I was a Brumei, I'd make big effort to be like one of those Brummers, like come on, come on, come on, Tommy, let me cut him. Um, a big believer in the idea that accent determines characteristics, and that's probably why we're so different as a people here in this country. Is because I think more so than any other nation um, in the well, not in the world. I have not checked that, but certainly the differentiation in accents that we have in this small country, albeit populous, is greater than any accent differentiation that they have, certainly in Australia, certainly in New Zealand, certainly in Canada or America or any other English speaking country. I've spoken to French people and Italian people about it, who also say that they don't have such great differentiation in accents across area. So it is a thing, according to the people that I've spoken to from these places, that seems to be specific to England, and it doesn't even seem to occur in quite the same way in Scotland or Wales. Not to the same sort of quite yams of Brumei. You're a Scouser. I'm from Newcastle, and hello, lover. I'm from Cornwall. Like that's like quite a big. There's a real breadth there in quite a small area across a large. So I think as that's why I've never found national pride very, because we're also like incredibly different. Also, I feel like I don't know. I just don't know what look. If you want to let me know what we're all getting behind, I'm sure I'd love to get behind it. I'm sure I'd love to get behind it. But also, like, what is Russian national identity about? They span kind of half the globe. What is there in that bit by Alaska that binds them to the people that are by, the Ukraine, obviously? And actually, though the accents of the people in, by Alaska, of apparently the sense of that's why they need this mad 5'5" Christian fascist lunatic. Well, they don't need him, obviously, but the one thing that he is, or he's good at a lot of things, and being good at things is not the same as not being a bad dickhead, which I think, especially on current evidence in the news, he is a bad dickhead. What I think is uh, quite incredible is the sense of national unity that pervades the entire country. And again, it's anecdotal. It's when I went to Russia, I asked people about it, and he went, "Yeah, well, the big thing that he needs to impress a sense of national identity on everybody that is and everybody across all these different cities in this absolutely insanely big country, they are encouraged to feel Russian, but by pain of death. No, there isn't the infrastructure for it to enforce, that pain of death type vibe. Anyway, Russia is right next to the Ukraine. The Ukraine was part of Russia for about 50 years. Before that, it wasn't. They were Ukrainian, but some people in Ukraine, because when we just didn't redraw the lines of any of these countries very well. And even though there was, a broad sense of separatism, possibly in Crimea, although the extent to which the Russians said when they took Crimea in 2014, they went, look, we just held a referendum and loads of these bastards want to get out of here, and, the police, the streets were already being manned by police at that point. Russian elections, as we know, aren't, that trustworthy, I think it's fair to say, given the whole, 2008, Putin retires and becomes prime minister and then goes, I'm going to be, 2012, I'm going to be president again. I'm going to do it all over again. And I've rigged the election. And he came out and said, yeah, come on, of course it was fucking rigged. You people don't know how to vote yet. You think you've boxed off voting, do you? You arrogant populace, you, said Putin. He said, we've only been, you have democracy here for what? Now, like 21, 22 years odd? Something like that? What, and you think you're good at voting, do you? You're voting a fucking idiot. I'm the bloke who's meant to be in charge at this time of night, okay? And that's why I'm in charge. So Daddy knows best, okay? And also, the problem is Hillary Clinton and gay people. And they, like cocksuckers, quote, they just went on this whole campaign where they went, yes, I know we rigged the election, but it was really because there are too many gay people everywhere. And if there weren't so many gay people, we probably wouldn't have had to rig the election. I'm paraphrasing, but you'd be amazed how true that was. It's awful, isn't it? He is a bad man. And then there was that thing in the Ukraine where the Ukrainian people said to their president, listen, mate, we'd love to join the EU. We see the prosperity and the quality of life, and we are just apoplectically horny at the idea of being an EU member state. And he went, oh, God, yeah, me too, but just shh, because I've got this mate just over there and he really hates the EU. And, we're neighbors, and it's like Putin views the Ukraine like having a like party boy, like a DJ move in next door. No, you can't have the EU move in next door. We'll never get any sleep. And then my kids will see how much fun everybody's having at your house and want to go there, or want us to get a DJ in. This is a fucking nightmare. I hate you. Please don't join the EU. And the president of the Ukraine went, okay, fine. I've just promised everybody that we would join the EU and that we were going to have the DJ round. But fine, I won't join the EU then. And then everybody in the Ukraine went ballistic and went, fine, if you're not going to hire the DJ, then we'll just party in Maidan Square. And then they all partied in Maidan Square until there was heavy pressure on them from Russia. And then they shot a lot of the protesters in Maidan Square. And then they didn't give up. The Maidan protesters won and just filed a few inches off of Vladimir Putin's cock. So then he went, oh, God, this is humiliating. Oh, I'm so humiliated. And 5'5". Vladimir Putin, if you're wondering, is what it would be like if Joe Rogan had power. It's the same sort of, like, we're also, I think I spoke about Joe Rogan on a previous episode. We're lucky that Joe Rogan's insecurity about his height manifests itself like it does. Yeah, because in the Russia, we see how much worse it could be when sad, small men go mental. Okay? So just count yourselves a little bit lucky, would you, please? Anyway, then he went, I'm having Crimea. So he sent a bunch of soldiers into Crimea, foot soldiers on the ground, and then everybody in Crimea, and there was a survey done in 2013 that said 56% of the population wanted to vote, and wanted to join Russia, which, London wants to join the EU. It doesn't mean we get to. They're sovereign states are sovereign states for a reason. And you can't just go along and take it, even if the left wing, the hard left in this country would have you believe that Vladimir Putin is somehow a good idea or not as bad as we think, or just because he's not part of the West, it means he's good in some way. It's just this adolescent dog shit mewling idiocy by losers. Any road. They stage a referendum that they put on themselves. They hold their own referendum as if that has any kind of validity or anything like that. 99% or something mad vote to join Russia, and then it's sort of just taken into Russian control. 99%, obviously. I mean, I would love to know what happened to that 1% of the population of Crimea who went, no. I like the Ukraine. Oh, do you like being shot with a gun? Sorry, my mistake. Yeah. No, I apologize. I actually meant that I love Russia and I pledge allegiance to Vladimir. Then Vladimir went, that feels a lot better. I've essentially gotten away. I mean, not to mention the fact that he fucked up. The nuclear submarine was the first thing he fucked up. You can Google that. Then there was the school shooting that he wasn't across. And each of these fuck ups, he's managed to take more of Russia into his own control. So I'll just hold all these regional police units. I'll just take into central control. And his control has grown with each one of his fuck ups. So this fuck up with Maidan Square, he went, right, I'm taking Crimea. And that's now mine. Because it's always been Russian. And obviously we know that he believes that all of the Ukraine is Russian, because he's obsessed with this 100-year-old. He's not 100 years old now, he's dead, but he's from 100 years ago. Ivan Ilyin, who believed that, there's no such thing as Ukraine. There's just bonus Russia. Don't be a dick. There's Russia, and then there's a bunch of other places, Poland and whatnot. Okay? So there's Russia. There's also some kind of medieval Christian history that links Prince Vladimir, which is why Vladimir Putin's obsessed with it. He got Brexit done, boxed off by, by cyber warfare. It's incredibly kind of modern and quite cool if you could look at it dispassionately and not with the absolutely devastating ramifications it's had on people's lives and our collective social mental health over the last 4 years. But having to watch Brexit and then Donald Trump get into power, knowing that it was owing in not totally, but in some large part to Russian interference, and then not being able to go, right, so that's not democracy, but we're stuck with it. And it's almost worse than, it's like a foreign actor interfering with our democracy and then us all going, well, we sort of got a system and we're sort of just stuck with it now, aren't we? So, it's a shame. It's a shame. And now this. And everybody has been trying to work out, well, Russia isn't actually that rich. And Russia doesn't actually, I don't see what strategically Russia gains from this. And Russia being not that rich a country, it's a poor country with nuclear weapons. And if they do this, then they must know that there's going to be huge economic ramifications for them. Not only the cost of war, which is a fucking expensive thing to do, but also, I had to do a burp, but also the the sanctions that are going to be imposed upon them by everybody else. So they're fucked. So why would they put themselves in this danger? Because and then I've seen commentators and some of my most respected tweeters all trying to sort of disentangle in their brain the web of logic that has led the Kremlin to invade the Ukraine. And nobody, bar nobody, has hit upon the idea that maybe, just maybe, the internal logic at play in this particular situation is absent, and Putin is a mental Christian fascist. The philosopher Ivan Ilyin was the first sort of exponent, or like the first kind of proponent, rather, of the inventor, the man who first wrote the book, quite literally, on Christian fascism, the man who preached, Russian nationalism, and saw Christian fascism as a way of enshrining the moral purity of the populace, and that war and that war was the only permissible sin. Did he say that? Can't remember. But either way, his popularity surged at the behest, I believe, of Vladimir Putin when he first came into power. And Vladimir Putin is a mental Christian fascist who is like, people just don't want to believe that this much, like the most volatile and dangerous the global situation has been since the Cuban Missile Crisis, could just be because somebody's like gone fucking mental. And that's scarier, because if there was a logic to it and we're all trying to piece out, well, I read a foreign policy article recently, like, because you just can't go to your editor if you're the writer in a foreign policy magazine and go, listen, I've got a new piece idea. It's only 3 words, though. Well, we do prefer 800 word to 1,000 word limits on our foreign policy editorials. I think you know that, Bernard. Yes, but my one's just 3 words. It's "He is mental." It's also the headline. Okay? So if you just like to print that in your little magazine, "He is mental," then we can all get along with shitting ourselves. Okay? I could be wrong about that. There could be a really kind of impressive logic to everything that's going on in Russia at the moment. But do you know what? I don't think there is. But it's only me. I'm only one man. Trying to remember as much as I can about what was it up there? The Road to Unfreedom by Timothy Cinder. Misha Glenny's Audible podcast on Russia's pretty damn good. There's other bits and pieces I've been reading as well. Man, oh man. Anyway, fingers crossed. The Champions League finals being moved from St. Petersburg to somewhere else, probably Wembley. It usually gets moved to Wembley when it can't anymore be in the place that it was originally going to be in. So Liverpool will have to travel down to Wembley for the Champions League final, which means that we'll get, hopefully that'll be preferable to us. I think generally Liverpool Football Club would prefer to play in. It's about the trip, isn't it? You don't want to be going to Wembley. The whole point is, European competition, and going somewhere great is part of that fun. Munich, that'd be good. Anyway, moving on from the catastrophes, I'm currently back from tour for a few days. Do you like my bookshelves? If you're watching this podcast instead of the other option, which would be to view it, it was a fucking language. If you were watching this podcast, which is the alternative, you can watch it on YouTube or listen to it on a podcast application type thing. But yeah, you can see that my bookshelves are back, and in my brand new central London recording space, I finally have erected my bookshelves. Shout out to Sophie, who helped me with my bookshelves. Very kind. My brother, who also occupies. We aren't lovers. We just occupy the same cage. That's all. Cat on Hot Tin Roof. We ain't lovers. We're brothers, and we occupy the same cage. So yeah, he also lives there. His friend Sophie was over during the day, and Lenny was off out, and she knocked on the door and said, I actually love putting together flat pack furniture. So if it's not too much trouble, I'd love to help you put this flat pack furniture together. And as a man who doesn't easily accept help, I feel reluctant to ever accept help for some reason. It makes me feel incredibly awkward and like I owe people something. Does that say something appalling about me? Like the character me as a person? Does that say something bad about me? I hope not. I hope I'm all right. If anybody is a master of psychoanalysis or good at dissecting people's characters based on the their anxieties around certain human interactions, I'd like that. I'd certainly like that. If you could do that for me, I'd love that. A lovely bit of psychoanalysis based on the podcast would be absolutely wonderful. Anyway, we had a wonderful time. 3 hours, 3 bookshelves, no waiting. Is IKEA okay? Is IKEA not part of a... Because you hear people have a go at Jeff Bezos, and Bo Burnham writes songs about Jeffrey Bezos. And everybody's always mewling about Amazon, despite how obviously and completely brilliant it is. Citation, well, no, not citation, but recommendation off. If you fancy that, Garrett Millerick has a wonderful bit about how good Amazon is. It's really good. And I won't ruin it or go any further into that, but has nobody had a go at IKEA yet? Is there some sort of... And that'll be another thing to let me know about, please. Garnering as much podcast interaction as I possibly can. Is IKEA evil? ? I'd like to know. Do you know anything? No bollocks either. Just, no QAnon. If you ask for the meatballs with a, with chives, then they send you to a orphanage or something, and you can torch it. Whatever nonsense they come up with. Or not nonsense. But yeah, the bookshelves. I'd love to know how evil. Is it sustainable? Is it healthy? Is it good? Do they care? Do they pay their workers? Are they a good employer? Environmental and humanitarian factors are the big ones for me. Environmental and human. And if you can not be too much of a dick in those two departments, I sort of don't really mind how much you earn at the top. I don't mind if I know that they're not, but if everybody at Amazon was having a great time and everybody was getting paid madly well and the whole system was great and everybody just wanted to work there just so much. I just can't believe I can't work at Amazon today. I love it so much. Then I'd be quite happy for him to be a billionaire, which is... I know billion is only one up from a million, but it's so much more than a million. Like a million is it's just so much more. It's more, weirdly, mathematically somehow, it's like more than you think. It's much more million more than you think is more than a million. Okay. Don't stop listening to the podcast just because I've been fucking stupid. Right now, I'm back from my tour. I'm at home at the moment, living with my common law wife, the love of my life, Vladimir, pregnant. Vladimir and Jessie K from Trolley. who's pregnant, who I've got 3 children with. I'm sure you're across that information by now. And it's a pleasure to be I've set that up like it isn't a pleasure to be home. It is a pleasure to be home. Having to explain to your children why you're away so much is difficult, and have to have the 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 purity and powerlessness of children's stating that they miss you is utterly heartbreaking. Even more heartbreaking than that, more, on a par with that, I suppose, would be um the baby saying, or not saying, but making it clear with its, newly functioning emotional faculties that he has missed me. Very, very hard to to get to grips with. But at the same time, touring is an utter pleasure, a joy. It's what I wanted my whole life, and it's going rather well. So I can't complain, and I'm not complaining. It's not like a complaint. I'm not moaning. I'm just um, trying to comment on um, what the situation is. And that the situation is that, you know. I think 18 months might be the greatest human age. Like it's so much better. Like newborns are, I'm so not across everybody's fawning. That was my stomach grumbling. I'm so not across everybody's fawning, like wide eyed joy at the beauty of the newborn. I so couldn't give a fuck about your newborn. Obviously, I could give a fuck about my newborn, but not in the same way that I give a fuck after it's not a newborn anymore. Like, it's just, they're, they're rubbish. They just, like, they don't give anything back. It's like, oh, it's like we've had to manufacture things to be enthusiastic about with newborns because in and of themselves they are so utterly absent of anything good. Oh, the thing though, that if you want to hold my shitting noise machine, it's a noise machine that shits itself, and it smells like, or smells fine unless it's just shit itself, which invariably it usually has shat itself. Well, poos aren't that bad, are they? No, no, no. It's not like a poo. You couldn't say that the baby's done a poo. What the baby's done is a sort of like it hasn't taken on the singular role of a poo. There is some poo, but you couldn't. A poo always strikes me. The word poo is evocative of a shape. You say poo, like the first thing I imagine is the shape of a poo, and shape is a big thing missing from what the newborn baby does. It is not over furnished in the cohesion shit department. The newborn baby, it squeals and screams. It's quite good because it can't roll onto its front for a certain time period, which means that you can just like not worry about it eating a coin, failing to eat a coin, choking and dying. But for all of that uh, comfort that you find in having a baby that won't eat a coin that you leave laying around on the floor or whatnot, there is just the added danger of having that. They are not, like, illnesses are all emergencies. Any minor illness is an emergency with a newborn. So you've got to go through the anxiety and the heart palpitations and the stress. And by the way, Jessie refuses to believe that stress ages you. She doesn't believe that stress ages you. And I like to go, that's just that's a myth. oh my God, are you kidding? I mean, I suppose the key, like, argument that she has in her favor is herself, one of the youngest looking and most stressed out people I know. But like, why do you think, like, I know obviously like everybody always goes, oh, look how young Obama was when he entered office and look how old he was when he left. And I go, I know, it was 8 years. And it was like a key 8 years as well. Like for men, that's a big 8 years in the aging department. Um, for everybody, that's a big 8 years in the aging department. Although Michelle still, anyway, whatever. Um, like, of course you age, but they've aged more, like Blair aged more than he would have done were he not prime minister, I'm pretty sure. Uh, anyway, like when a child gets to 18 months, they are smiling, they are hugging, they are engaging, playing, dancing. Oh, an 18-month-old dancing. An 18-month-old is responding. An 18-month-old is showing affection. An 18-month-old is loving you back, but can only love you back with its behaviors, with indications of love. And love is like a newly switched on phenomenon for this suddenly awake being. All of this shitting and crying and like being kind of an immobile mess of noise and cack that you've been for, the preceding year or more or less. I don't know how long you're a newborn for technically, but the first year is, not my favorite bit, and it gets better as it goes on, obviously. But the awake, like how amazing to be an 18-month-old and just suddenly be like, oh, I love you. Oh my God, is Uptown Funk on? I love Uptown Funk. Is that like broccoli, sort of soy frankfurter and sort of fusilli pasta? Oh, it's farfalle. Sorry. Yeah, either way, I love it. I love farfalle. And I love the soy kind of frankfurter that is, that my parents only buy out of a sense of sort of depleted convenience because they're so beaten by life that their preferred sausage is this soy frankfurter because the cooking process is a boiling time of 2 minutes, and they're absolutely delicious. So when children don't finish, the parents can. And my oh my, what a treat to dip in the sugar-free ketchup that you've bought. I don't know the difference, guys, so I'm still happy. As a baby, I'm still very happy with the sugar-free ketchup. Thank you very much for providing it. Why, at an early age, obliterate my taste buds with the full salt and sugar duo of the hard-hitting original ketchup when you could give me this stuff that to be watered-down piss, but to me, is absolutely delicious. Side note, I actually think the sugar-free and salt-free ketchup is pretty incredible, and it's replaced the original ketchup, and I really haven't missed it. Okay, and it's been a big boon and a benefit. All these football managers who go on about banning ketchup, don't bother banning ketchup, you fucking killjoy. Just get the stuff in that's got no sugar and no salt in it, and everybody be having a great time dipping their sweet potato wedges or whatever they're eating at football grounds. But anyway, the joy of watching a child eat the food. I am nourishing you. Yes, I nourish you. I am father. I make vegan frankfurter by boiling. Then I steam broccoli to retain nutrients. Then I put the fusilli or farfalle or spaghetti's a bad idea for 18 months old, just saying. They don't know how to chew it properly. They just swallow it whole and then they vomit it back up. I do this for you because I am provider. I provide for you. You eat. You sustain yourself. You grow. You start your own family. With my blood in your veins. You start your own family. And then their blood, you nourish them. And our blood continues. And it goes into the soil, and we live forever. We are billion-year-old stardust. We are carbon. We are forever. We are family. We are. I love you. And then they get old, they learn how to talk. And that's great as well. But there is something so beautiful and pure and gorgeous about the innocence of the 18-month-old. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Sort of engaged but unspoiled. Like they have the ability to know the world, but not, to the extent that it damages them in any way. He knows that he likes the taste of pasta, but he doesn't know that Vladimir Putin has invaded the Ukraine. Not the Ukraine, just Ukraine. They don't like to be called the Ukraine because it makes it sound separate, or as if it's like a sort of how to describe it, a sort of novelty state or a temporary state, or it's a sovereign nation, and therefore should be called Ukraine. It's not the Russia or the Belgium or the Mozambique or the Peru. It's not the Ukraine. It's not a special settlement of newly established islands. It's Ukraine. They have a Ukrainian identity. For now, I did my first couple of TikToks recently at Alfie Brown Comedian on TikTok. And I didn't do TikToks. I just cut up some stand-up and put it on there. Two things about that, I suppose. One of which is the responsibility of the performer recording their set, having a go at somebody, or not having a go at somebody in the audience, but engaging in banter with an audience member that makes the audience member look foolish, and then having me win in a contretemps with said audience member, and my victory being displayed on my social media for all to see and enjoy. Just in terms of, I suppose, you've got to be careful about giving away people's names or details or whatnot. Something about it makes me feel slightly uneasy, putting somebody online without their express permission. I had great audience interaction with a lovely man, and because I'm saying it was lovely audience interaction with a lovely man, I don't mind. Well, yeah, with a lovely man. Very tall, very drunk man with a mullet. There you go. I'm not naming him, so it's fine. I was about to name him, and then I thought, I'll just give you details of what he was like without his name, and that'll be fine. Maybe that's the right way around. Maybe he's a listener. Maybe he wants to be named. Anyway, charming chap, pissed out of his mind. And we had a few good back and forths. I've still got them on my computer just there. And I was looking at them thinking, should I clip those up and put those out? And then something about it struck me that it might not be fair on him, because some people get pissed sometimes, and some people, some people get pissed and some people get embarrassed about it. Some people are employed by people they wouldn't want to know that they were going to be pissed. And I was just in two minds about whether or not to put it up. You can't see him, but I do say his name, I think. I can't remember. But I suppose if I don't say his name and you can't see him, it'd be absolutely fine. And it would only be the people who were in the room who knew who it was, and they knew who it was anyway. I've just talked myself into it. Hurrah! Yeah, that'd be all right. And TikTok, I've had a few videos go fine on it. For the first time, I've been just flinging bits of stand-up out for a while, and none of them got very much traction at all. And then I put these two bits of crowd work out, and they both went much better because I don't know. I think actually I know why, because they were like budget recordings. I did them on the camera that I'm speaking to into. I did them on the camera that I'm speaking into right now. That's how to say that sentence. And in doing them like into this camera instead of a, thousands and thousands of pounds multi-camera setup, which is what all my other clips are from, the special that you can watch on YouTube for free, Alfie Brown Imagination. If you haven't yet, please do leave a comment. It's great for the algorithm. Um, you, I've forgotten where I was. Jesus fucking Christ! That's so irritating and unprofessional, and I'm so annoyed about it. Oh yes, TikTok. So from that, whereas the other ones that I put up that did quite well were, and I think people like the idea that you've just done it, or that it's people don't like the idea that they're being sold anything, and they associate quality with being sold something. So they like also the DIY nature of TikTok is part of the appeal. So they want to think that people are doing their own thing and that creating their own thing, and that they're getting something that's just for them rather than something that's part of something bigger that they're not getting to see in that 15-second moment. And the fact that when they like or share something, they feel like they're liking or sharing something that they've just discovered, that is sort of new and shit, rather than part of something that might already be acknowledged as being much bigger than the thing that they're watching on TikTok. So anyway, there are lots of reasons why I think that the DIY thing goes better on TikTok than more polished pieces. As I've put two polished pieces up since the two that did fine. They didn't do well, obviously. Like, I know what it is to do well on TikTok, and that didn't do that, but it did fine. And then these two new ones went back to being shit. I'm interested in when something like TikTok comes along, and I think I'm right to be cynical about it, or at least I'm not like completely wrong to be cynical about it. Everything is worth a bit of cynicism. If you don't think, cynically as well as openly about most things, you need to come at it from both angles and be able to think in both a cynical um and a more open way about the things that take place. Uh, all things that take place in the world. That's how you can form a more rounded opinion. Anyway, sorry. And with TikTok, obviously, my immediate reaction to it as a phenomenon when it first occurred is, oh, the earth is dying screaming. And we need some sort of anesthetic. And what we've chosen to do, rather than puncture our frontal lobes with needles, so that we might uh, have a simpler and more direct experience of reality. It's a lobotomy, by the way. We have decided to just sort of disengage, or not to disguise all reality, or to at least inoculate ourselves against reality, to distract ourselves from reality, whatever it is. The human species does not tolerate too much reality. You might be like me, a smartphone addict who cannot kind of breathe in without thinking, maybe I'll, look at my phone. Doing this podcast is the longest I look at my phone for. It's utterly pathetic. And TikTok has found quite a good way. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, same thing, you see, of getting us all sort of madly hooked on whatever this is. But creatively, I'm not totally against. It's my instinct to think, well, long form is better. You can truly engage with something. But you can truly engage with something that's long form, is what I was about to say. You can truly get a sense of who somebody is, as you can across the 49-ish minutes that we've been together for this podcast. you have a sense of me, you have a sense of what's going on, you have a sense of who I am. I can talk by like uh, in detail about my life, my feelings, and you can engage with all of the messy distraction. Like I think, I don't know, I was talking about Russia. I meant to talk about Russia, and then I got distracted and started talking about national identity, didn't I? And unlike with like Putin, I worry that maybe, like with all the commentators thinking about Putin, like in too complex terms, thinking that there must be something to this, whereas actually the analysis consists of he's mental. Maybe me, in trying to see some sort of artistic value in the potential of TikTok and what it is the truth of the matter is actually the simplest answer, which is it is shit for decaying our brains and destroying our world and our society and us as sort of free thinking, well, not free thinking, but like people who can think well, people with the ability to think um, with an engaged and lively and curious mind, with the ability to concentrate, read books, take in information, learn about the world. Is it destroying that facility within us? Yes. So maybe it's just shit. And maybe I should stop trying to not be cynical about TikTok and just be cynical about it. I've never been moved by it in one of the occasions that I've flipped through it, and I actually don't get when I look at my phone. It's not to look at Twitter, not to look at TikTok. Sorry, but it is. I mean, and I still am, despite what I just said, keeping an open mind about it. Is there a way? And because I enjoy it, or at least because I find it interesting, will engage with the form in some way, like I will with YouTube. I'm interested in seeing if there is a way, because everything like this, all of these social medias, they have a certain system that get done. Like the typical YouTube thing is, I did something for 30 days. Here's what happened. Like I took cold showers. I did yoga. I gave up my smartphone. Those are all Matt D'Avella. And like I like him, and I think he's good, and I watch it. But I wonder if I haven't interrogated the fact that I'm engaged by it and what that means about me or says about me, or when I watch YouTube, whether that's, I like days of eating videos. Ugh, a day. How many calories can you consume in a day? I love watching strongman Eddie Hall eat 7,000 calories, or maybe he swaps diets with his wife and she has to eat 7,000 calories and he has to eat 1,200, or whatever it is. All of these, because if you can be good on camera in a kind of vlog setting, well, that's a shame. I felt like I was being interesting there and the battery cut out. But I think what I was saying, or at least I found what I was talking about interesting. Jesus Christ. Subliminal hubris creeping into my fucking podcast. Bastard. Anyway, I will, if that was interesting, maybe I'll talk more about the different forms of social media and the future of them, because I think it's something I'm very interested in, how they will progress. Obviously, they're still in their infancy, so people haven't really learned how to utilize them to their fullest extent yet. And I'm very interested about how in the future they will be used for art. And I'm aware that there's lots of art going on YouTube, but YouTube is just, it's a video platform, isn't it? It's like the cinema, or you put any old art up there, obviously it'd still be art. But with TikToks and Instagrams, and like being artistic or having artistic integrity upon a social media platform, or alternatively, is the very idea and premise of what a social media platform is anathema to artistic integrity and art? That is the question I will leave us with. This has been the Alfie Brown Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves this week. It's been emotional. Good evening, good night, and God bless.